welcome to Whiskey Wednesday, where every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, I will discuss or go through a strategy that will help you grow, build, market, scale your business. Now, here's the thing about Whiskey Wednesday, okay? My drink of choice is whiskey, okay? You don't have to have whiskey. You can have tea, you can have water, you can have whatever it is that you want. I just prefer whiskey. I love whiskey. That's the reason why it's Whiskey Wednesday. The other thing is that this is a very casual and relaxing environment, okay? So it's not required that you have your learner's cap on. You don't have to have your pen and paper. You don't have to have, any of those things because this will be reposted on our YouTube channel. So if you're on Instagram Live, though, the replay won't be available. So I will record it here on Instagram for people to see, for anybody who wants to watch live, but the replay won't be available on Instagram. It will be available on our YouTube channel. So you can sit back, you can relax, you can just listen and just hang out with me for a little bit, okay? While we talk through a strategy that I really think is going to support your business if you're in this situation. So real quick, I want to show y'all my whiskey glass. I'm super excited about it because I'm nerdy. It has the chemical compositions of different molecules that you can find in different types of whiskey, right? So if you have, so the main component and the aroma of the whiskey is whiskey lactone. So this is the molecule for that. By the way, I studied biochemistry in college. Don't judge me. But anyway, I got this glass. I ordered it and I was really excited about it. And I think it's really, really cute. So yeah, there you go. That's my whiskey glass for today. All right. So what are we discussing today? Someone asked me a question the other day and she said, what do I do if I have already cultivated an audience on social media that is not my target audience? Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. For those of you who don't like to watch long videos or anything like that, I'm going to give you the 3 answers up front and then I will break them down. Okay. So if you have cultivated an audience on social media that is not your target market because you were producing the wrong type of content, or maybe you didn't have a strategy, or maybe you didn't understand what you were doing when you first started marketing your business on social media, then you have 3 options. The first option is you can create content that the audience that you have cultivated cares about. So you can create content for the audience that you currently have. That's your first option. The second option is you can focus on creating content on the same page that is geared towards the people who are your target market, even though you have already cultivated a market or an audience of people who are not your target market. Okay. And then the third option is you could simply just start a brand new page. Okay. So those are your 3 options. Now I want to break down each of those 3 options and really what that means. So with our current Instagram profile that we have right now, the Perfect Flow Funnels Instagram profile, we were in that situation for a while. Originally, Perfect Flow Funnels started out as WGR Now Consulting, and the purpose of that was for us to focus only on operations. We were going to focus on operations. We were going to focus on systems, systemizing businesses. We weren't even really focused that much on process improvement at the time. It was mostly about creating systems, running operations, automation implementation, and all of those different kinds of things. Okay. Now, that part of the business requires a lot of different moving pieces. It requires project management. It requires team management. So sometimes if the company already had its own team, we would come in and simply just manage the project. So we would put together the project, manage the project. There were a few situations where we actually would put together the team. And then, we're responsible for managing the project. And then there were some times when I was the team and I was the one that was responsible for the implementation and the coaching and the consulting and all of the different things, right? And so that is a very specific service for a very specific business. Like, your business needs to be in a very specific place. And the reality is, we were getting business primarily kind of word of mouth. Mostly somebody would see something that I said on social media, or they would meet me at a conference, or they would meet me at an event, or they would meet somebody who knew of me and of our company and all of the different things. And that's how we were getting business. And the thing with that kind of work is the contracts tend to be bigger contracts. So these tend to be 5-figure contracts because of the amount of work and the resources that are required. And those contracts require a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of resources. So it would require a lot of my time. Even if I wasn't the one that put together the team and I was coming in and I was managing someone else's team, project management, team management, now you're managing personalities, you're managing deadlines, you are attending software demos, because that's one of the things that I would do is I would serve not as a fractional COO, but I would serve in place of handling their operations. So I was the person that you would come to before you were ready for a COO, right? And so when we started the Instagram page, we were posting things that were visually appealing, right? We had a color palette. It was very pretty. We had the fonts, and it was very, very nice to look at. The problem was that kind of marketing wasn't really attracting the people who were ready for what we offered. And we worked with different people for different marketing strategies, and we implemented different marketing strategies, and we did different things with social media. But the marketing strategies that we were advised to implement caused us to attract a lot of people who were fascinated by what we were talking about on the page. And they were enamored with what I was talking about and my knowledge and what I knew and all of these things. But when they would book their consultations, they were simply not ready. Their businesses were just not ready for systems in the way that we work with systems. And the interesting thing about a lot of companies that do systemization and process improvement and things of that nature is that oftentimes, if the business owner is having a challenge with their business, if you go to somebody who does systems, most of the time, what they will tell you is that it's a systems problem. So if you're not making enough sales in your business, it's because you don't have the right systems. If you are not making consistent money in your business, it's because you don't have the right systems. You need to put these different kinds of systems in place. And most of the time, with a lot of the other companies that work in systems, when they're talking about systems, they're really just talking about automations, which is only one part of systems. So you've got people who are on these social media platforms, and this is what they're hearing. They're not making enough sales. They're not making money consistently. They're not making money fast enough. And then they're saying, well, the reason why this is happening is because we don't have systems. And so I would find myself doing a lot of consultations and a lot of work with people who were not ready for where we were, and consulting them through all of the different steps that they would need to take in order to be ready for what that company was doing, or what we were doing in terms of systems, right? Okay. So when we shifted over to perfect flow funnels, we still had the same audience. It was still the same audience. And so we looked at our marketing efforts. We looked at what we wanted to focus on in business. And one of the things that we made a decision on was that, okay, well, you know what? I think we want to kind of scale back on taking on some of the larger projects right now. Just given our own capacity, given our own resources. My husband and I have 4 children. And so just given our own personal priorities, we were like, okay, we really want to scale back on that. And so then what we decided to do, since we did decide to scale back on that, was instead of creating a brand new page, we just started creating content for the people who, we started creating content that was relevant to the people who were in the audience we had already created, right? Now, here's one of the downfalls to that. In that audience, a small percentage of that audience were people who would have been ready, or whose businesses would have been ready to focus on systems in the way that we focus on systems. And so the challenge that you have with that is that those people are eventually going to fall off. They're going to unfollow. They're going to unsubscribe from the email list. They're going to do all kinds of things. So you are going to lose those people, right? But that is one of the options, is for you to look at the audience that you have cultivated. And one of the things that will make this work, so let me be clear about this. One of the things that will make this work is if the people in the audience you have cultivated, if they're not your target market now, if they're like maybe 1 to 5 steps behind the types of people that would be in your target market, then you could begin to create content and begin to create products and services that serve those people. And you would strategize it in a way where your products and services would begin to lead them on the journey to being ready for whatever your actual target offer was. Okay. So if you're going to continue to create content for the people who were on your page, then it will only work if you do it in that way. Now, if you are a hairdresser and you've cultivated an audience of people who are celebrating baldness, then that's not going to work, right? Because they're celebrating baldness. That is a total mismatch of values. Like, it's not going to work. You are a hairstylist. You do all these kinds of things. These people are celebrating baldness. I have no idea how you would have cultivated that audience, but if you did, you probably should just leave that audience be. Okay. Just like, you don't even want to do that. But if you're looking at the audience that you've already cultivated and you're saying, okay, well, they're not my target market. However, they are, maybe 3 to 4 steps, 1 to 5 steps before becoming my target market. You may want to go back and serve them. Now, one of the benefits of being able to do that is you begin to cultivate this long-term journey with your audience, with your community. Or you can actually build a community that is going on this long-term journey with you, right? So if we use us as an example, if someone has a sales problem, then they need to really focus on getting more sales in their business. So we have products, digital products that they could purchase, classes, courses, resources that would help them make more sales in their business. Okay. Now, if they make more sales in their business, they start making, money consistently in their business, well, then maybe they're ready to hire a virtual assistant to support them. Well, then, now they can take, our suite of courses in terms of like creating your playbook, how to onboard and train your virtual assistant. So they can take those courses and get support in that way. And so what ends up happening is we get to be with them along their journey of building and growing their business, so that when they're building and scaling and growing their business. So they're going to start with building, right? They're going to move into marketing, right? They're going to move into scaling, and they're going to move into growth. And so we get to be a part of that journey. So now when they're ready for operations and they're ready for systems, we would have been with them through some of the preliminary steps, through the preliminary milestones that are required to be met before you get to that level in your business. Right. And so you're developing this long-term relationship because you're creating this journey that all of you get to go on. So that's the ins and outs of the first option. Now, the second option is to say, OK, I've created this audience of people who are not my target market. And I really only want to focus on people who are in our target market. So then what you can do is you can just start creating content that is specific to your target market. Now, here's what's going to happen. What's going to happen is when you start speaking very specifically only to the people that you are marketing to, in the very beginning of this new marketing approach, you're going to get crickets. You're probably not going to get a lot of engagement on your content. You're probably not going to get a lot of likes. You're probably not going to get a lot of shares and comments and things of that nature. Because at this point, your marketing has to be very clearly discriminatory. Like almost to the point to where you're saying, if you are person X, this is for you. If you are not person X, but you are person Y, this is not for you. Please scroll off. So you start saying that and you're creating content for X and the majority of your audience is Y. Yeah, they're going to scroll off because you told them to, because you told them that it's not for them. And so if you can ride that wave, you can ride that dip of, not having a lot of engagement, you're going to lose a lot of followers. If you have already started to build an email list, you're probably going to lose a lot of subscribers from that email list because you're being extremely discriminatory in your marketing, which is going to be required. If you can ride that, then eventually you will start to attract the people who are in your target market. And so, that's how you can work with that option. That may require a lot more creativity. It may require you being willing to market on multiple platforms. If you've only been focused on one or two, you may have to play with some new platforms. But eventually what will happen is you'll cycle out the people who really weren't in your target market, and then you will begin to attract the people who are in your target market. Okay? All right. Then the third option is to just start over and create a brand new profile. Like just completely start over and create a brand new profile. Now, if you choose to do that, on one hand, in the beginning, depending on your strategy and depending on the type of content that you are creating, some of the platforms will actually show favor to content from newer accounts because they want to incentivize you to continue to create content for their platforms. So for example, if you're playing with TikTok, you may start out where your other content on your previous page was only getting like maybe 100 or 200 views. And then you may start a brand new TikTok account and then you start off and your videos are getting like 700, 800, 1,000, 1,200 views, right? So then there's the advantage there. What you do have to understand is that advantage is short-lived, right? Because eventually everything's going to even out and you're going to kind of go back down to the bottom. So understand that if you decide to start a brand new page, then you're going to be starting from zero. And again, that's a little bit more of a longer game. And I think the length of that game really just depends on the aggressiveness of your marketing strategy. So the more aggressive your marketing strategy is, then you may be able to shorten that gap. However, if you're going to do that, you want to make sure that you have a really, really good understanding of that platform, or that you at least have someone on your team who has a good understanding of your platform, because sometimes social media platforms, for example, Instagram, may penalize you for being really aggressive with your social media marketing, like, you know, maybe posting 5 or 6 times a day. There was a time where posting 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times a day was advantageous, whereas now that kind of posting behavior is actually penalized, right? So you're going to have to make sure that you have a really good understanding. Now, here's the other thing too. You're starting from zero. So you're starting from a page that has no reputation, right? And you're starting from zero. So you're not going to want to bring the people who were on the previous page, right? Because the whole reason why you started the new page is because you said those people were not in your target market. Well, if that's the case, you're not going to want to bring those people over. So you're starting from zero, which means that you're starting with building a brand new reputation on the platform with this particular profile. And so you want to make sure that your marketing strategy is really solid, right? So you can say, that's not my target market. Great. But are you really clear about who your target market is? And this is going to be for all 3 of the situations, but it's really, really important if you're going to choose option number 3 and start all over. You have to understand your target market, but you have to understand how they consume the type of content that leads them to buy what it is that you're selling. So you want to make sure that you understand the type of content that they consume that triggers them to buy, and you need to understand what their buyer's journey is. So that's going to require some research to be done on your end. Now, one of the things that I would suggest for this is, if you don't have a virtual assistant, maybe find somebody on Upwork who can focus as a research assistant for you for like 30 days. And all this person does is they research your target market, they research your competitors, and they should be able to come back to you with the report of who these people are, how they buy, what type of content do they consume, how the way they consume that particular kind of content leads to the way that they buy. And that way, when you create your marketing strategy, it's in line with the behavior that's already that is already happening with the people who are your target market. Okay. So that's what I would say. Those are the 3 options. You know, you either start creating content for the people that you already have and you lead them on the journey to where they would be, or you start creating content that speaks directly to your target market, understanding that the people who all of those followers, all of those people who are following you on those profiles are probably going to fall off. So you're going to have to be okay with riding that dip. Now, let me go back really quickly to option number 1, because I forgot to add this. One of the things that you're going to have to be okay with doing, if you're going to use the strategy where you are creating content for the audience you've already created, you're going to have to be okay in some situations with lowering your pricing. So if you were if your target market was to sell services that are typically 5 figures, maybe the services that you were selling started 5 figures. If you're creating content for people who aren't quite there yet, now you're creating new content and new products, you're going to have to create lower priced products and services to be able to serve that market if you want to be able to make sales. So I want to go ahead and add that. Okay. And then again, the 3rd option is for you to just create a brand new page. So I've given you 3 options. I've broken down exactly what it means for you to have each of those options. And one of the things that I will say that I want to be really clear about that I want to be really clear about. Regardless of which option you choose, it's going to be important that you create a path that leads them from your email list, from your social media platforms to your email list to your offer. Okay? And I say that because no matter what your situation is, it's going to be very important that you don't try to solely depend on the algorithm or the good graces of the algorithms of all of these different social media platforms to put you in a position where you can constantly speak to your target market. Because if you do either one of those, any one of those strategies, what's going to happen is you are going to gain new followers. You are going to gain new followers who are in the target market that you choose to serve at the time. But you also have to understand that especially when you have a much smaller audience, your content isn't always going to be prioritized. You also have to remember that when you have a smaller audience, well, whether you have a smaller audience or a larger audience, it doesn't matter for this one, but only about 2% of the people who view your content, or only about 2% of your audience, your followers, are going to see your content at any given time, because that's the way the majority of the algorithms work for these social media platforms. So you could grow to 500 followers or 1,000 followers, and roughly about 2% of those people are going to see your content at any given time. Right? And then you can't control which 2% see any of your content pieces. So even if you are marketing multiple times a day or you're posting multiple times a day, you can't guarantee that the 2% of the people who saw the content piece at 9 a.m. are the same 2% of people who are going to see the content piece at 1 p.m. are the same 2% of people who are going to see the content piece at 7:30 p.m. And then the other part of that is, of that 2%, only 2% of the 2% are going to be in a position to make a buying decision, are going to consider buying from you. And you've got to hope that that 2% of that 2% has had anywhere from 14 to 21 different interactions with you, your business, your content, your products, and your services, so that they can feel comfortable making a buying decision from you, so that they can feel comfortable buying your products and services. You have very little control over that, like pretty much zero control when it comes to social media, and you're going to have a lot more control over that if you move them into an email list. Our emails, matter of fact, let me check. I will check right now and just give you up-to-date information. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so as of today, let me see. Let's go to my dashboard. Okay, as of today, we have a 45.83%, which is just a 46% open rate on our emails, okay? And that's just in our regular email sequences. And of our welcome email series, let's see, let me go here. Let me look at our different sequences. So if I take, let's see, I'm going to do some math right here. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, so 5. Okay, so as of right now, our average open rate on our welcome email series is 82.4%. So basically about 82% open rate on our email series. So what that means is, on our welcome sequence, we have about 82% of people who actually see our copy and actually see the content that we provide. And just on our kind of just regular, email sequence, we've got about 46% of people who see that. Now, do we want those numbers and those percentages to increase? Absolutely. However, 46% is a lot more than 2%. 82% is a lot more than 2%. And then the other part of that is right now about 20% of the people who come onto our email list at any given point make a purchase from our business within 24 hours or less. They make some type of purchase from our business within 24 hours or less, right? Those odds are going to be a lot better utilizing email marketing, because you can create more personalized marketing, you can create more targeted marketing, and you can have just a more intimate conversation with the people in the community that you are building than you can have simply using social media. So whichever one of these options you choose, you're going to want to make sure that a huge part of that strategy is moving people from your social media platform onto your email list. Now, if you go to my Instagram and you DM the letters STA, you will get my step-by-step guide for leveraging social media to build an email list of people who are ready, willing, and able to buy what your business is selling. And it puts you in a position where you have a lot more control over how your content is consumed. And it puts you in a position where you don't have to pander to the algorithms in hopes that maybe one of your pieces of content will go viral. I have my own thoughts about that kind of thing. We'll probably have that discussion at another time. But pandering to the algorithm and begging the algorithm to put your content in front of the people who have actually said by following you that they want to see your stuff. So you got to understand that the way most of the social media platforms are working right now, I know this is how TikTok works and this is now how Instagram works as well, is that when you produce a piece of content, what they will do is they will serve it to a small population of strangers. Okay? They're going to serve it to a small population of strangers who may be interested in the subject matter of the content that you create, but they're strangers. They don't know you. And a lot of them probably already have their person or persons for the type of content that you create. So they're serving your content to a small audience of strangers and they're saying, hey, do you like this person, right? As opposed to serving it to a small population of your audience so that you can really determine whether or not that's the type of content that your audience wants to see. Because oftentimes, if your analytics are low on your, if your reach is low on social media, it's because your content is being served to strangers. Your followers probably aren't even seeing what it is that you're posting. So you don't really know if you're not getting responses, if you get to the point where you're not getting responses on your marketing, your social media marketing, you don't even know if you're not getting responses because it's not the type of content that your followers like, or if you're not getting responses because it's just not the type of content that random strangers who don't know anything about you, right, and who have already chosen their person or persons for the subject matter that you talk about, it's not appealing to them. Of course, they're strangers, they don't know you, right? On your email list, you have a lot more control over that. So I want you to, if you're watching this, the replay, if it's on the YouTube, you can just click the link that's going to be in the description. Or if you're watching like snippets of this or whatever, go to our Instagram and DM me the letters STA. We'll make sure that you get that step-by-step guide for leveraging social media to create a thriving email list so that you don't have to depend on the algorithms. Okay? Now, last thing. If you are watching this and if you have questions, maybe you have questions about how to implement this in your own business, whatever the situation may be, then you need to be in our Discord. It's our private community. It's called the Solopreneurs Enclave, but it's Soul, S-O-U-L. Solopreneurs Enclave. It is our private Discord community where we provide additional coaching and support. There's a channel in there for you to be able to ask questions. You have an opportunity to network with other business owners as well. And so if you have very specific questions about how to implement anything that I have talked about in the strategies that I discussed today, then what you want to do is ask those questions in the Discord, and there will be a link for you to be able to join. If you're on Instagram or you're watching snippets of this, if you just DM the word join, JOIN, you'll be able to get a link to go into the Discord. Now, I will say, we manually vet, our moderators do, they manually vet every single person who comes into the community. So if you request access to the Discord, just be patient, because as soon as they vet you and do all of the things, they'll make sure that you're given full access and you'll be able to see everything that's in there. Okay, so there you go. Join the Discord and make sure you get that step-by-step guide for leveraging social media to create a thriving email list. This has been an amazing Whiskey Wednesday. I have enjoyed it. I hope you have too. And yeah, I will talk to you all next Whiskey Wednesday. Bye.